Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are Garage Gym Athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hey, man. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. I'm doing well. How are you?
I can breathe a little bit easier.
Oh, yeah, from your broken rib. How is that
Bruised.
going?
Not great. That was going to be my update, but...
Oh, well, let me go over the sponsor first, and then we'll get to your brokenness. Hey,
yeah.
I'm a little broken too, so I'm not throwing any stones here. So, we're doing Fact of the Week, brought to you by your body. That's what we're doing. So, a lot of people know this, but I just want to hit on it. I think that we need to start doing that. That's kind of what this podcast is. Today's podcast is too, is like, maybe you know this, maybe you've heard about it, but really, like, seriously, focus on it. Do it. Like, take some action. So the fact of the week here is vitamin D. So vitamin D regulates the expression of more than 1,000 genes, is an important modulator of both inflammation and the immune response, plays a role in hormone production, influence neural and mental health, and affects cell turnover and regulation. So vitamin D, super important. And there was a study done that a mere 5 to 10 minutes of exposure of just the arms and legs to direct sunlight can produce 3,000 IU of vitamin D in the body. But that is in fair-skinned individuals. Obviously, the darker your skin is, the harder it is for you to get vitamin D. And that's why there are a lot of like African-American populations that they tend to be more deficient in vitamin D than people with lighter skin, because it's just harder to get. You have to be outside for longer periods of time. It's like a blessing and a curse. Like, I wish I didn't get burned, like with 5 minutes of sun exposure. That'd be great. But I guess I like the vitamin D aspect of it.
All you have to do is go check the mail and you're good.
Pretty much. Well, like, I'm glad that I found, because everyone says like all the studies and things out there, most of the time say full body exposure. And they don't really go into any further detail. I'm like, am I supposed to be walking around or laying in my backyard naked? Like, is that how I'm full body exposure, for my vitamin D? And I actually found a study that said just arms and legs. So wearing a t-shirt and shorts is enough to get at least 3,000 IU in 5 to 10 minutes. And that's a lot. Like, you can take more, but if you're doing that every day, and we've talked about my sun bike ride, like SUN bike ride, with my shirt off. So I'm getting plenty of vitamin D, but it's just weird that we're so deficient. I pulled up a bunch of other studies, which I'm not going to read now, but the percentage of people that they estimate being deficient in vitamin D is kind of crazy to me. I guess because we spend 98% of our time indoors, right?
Yeah, that's what I've read in books and even like going to the doctors. They say most people are pretty deficient in vitamin D. Yeah,
and I think Garage Gym Athletes, we might be a little bit ahead of the curve, even though we're in our garages. Like, you're actually outside, which is my preference too when I train. Like, I prefer just to be straight outside. That's what I had in my last house. Working towards it again, just being outside as much as possible. But if you work out in even a CrossFit box or a Globo gym, you're just going from one air-conditioned space to the next, not ever really getting enough sunlight. So it's something that can be very easily missed in your daily routine. So get that vitamin D. Play the recovery game if you're one of our athletes. It says it in there. EO3 Elements has it in there. Like, just get your vitamin D. And that's the factoid of the week. Now, you, man, give me an update on yourself.
So, yeah, my rib's not great. I thought last week, I think at this point last week when we recorded, I was thinking, okay, I can't do anything weighted. I can't do anything hanging from a bar or whatever, but at least I can still run. Well, I went for a run and it did not go well the next day. My chest was hurting worse. So the whole expanding and contraction of my ribs and lungs and stuff, I guess, just made it worse and made it inflamed a little bit more. So I'm going to PT now for my hips. I'm still doing that, but I talked to them and they did a little bit work on me, and she was basically just saying that I need to take more frequently take deeper breaths and hold it just to keep my chest expanding, because as it heals, you don't want it to heal in a constricted state, because then it'll just be harder to open up again. So, and then for fitness, all I can really do is all I've been really doing is accumulating like 30 minutes at a conversational pace on my Airdyne.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah, so I
super boring.
I pull the Airdyne in the sun. I put on a podcast. I put it in the sun at the hottest part of the day, so at least I'm like sweating a lot. And I'm usually watching my heart rate on my watch to keep in a decent lower zone, and just I keep at a pace that I can still take nice, big, deep, controlled breaths, and just keep that pace for 10, 15 minutes.
So are you doing any breathing exercises or breathing work, like separate?
No, because I don't know how to do any of that, and I haven't really messed with breathing things.
Yeah, I use Shift State, something you could try. It's an app. It's helpful. Maybe that will keep your ribs in place. I do a lot of breathing exercises, and we don't talk about it a ton, but I do it basically every morning. Something, either Wim Hof or Shift State, something. I've really enjoyed the practice overall the last several years, I guess, at this point. Wim Hof just takes a lot of time. That's the only, Wim Hof takes at least, the minimum is like 15 minutes, can be 20, 25 minutes. And that's a lot of extra time for some breathing exercises. But it's really awesome. If you've never done the full Wim Hof method before, download the app. It's free, I think, or maybe it costs some money.
No, it costs money now.
It's worth it. Buy it, go do the breathing exercise, learn how it works, and do it one time. It's totally worth it. I'm saying that to you and everyone listening. Go try it out.
Yeah, so I've been doing my deep breaths, and then I can still do some crossover symmetry, which is good. I think every time I've ever gotten hurt, crossover symmetry's been brought out more.
Your fallback. It's like,
yeah, basically.
Things I should be doing from time to time anyway.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's my life right now.
Yeah, I just saw a physical therapist today as of us recording this. And I've been having a little bit of knee issues, and the foot issue is what's really been slowing me down lately. So I went and got checked out and confirmed what I think I mentioned in the last podcast that I was, or maybe it was just in one of our team meetings. They're very similar to me, our team meetings and our podcast, but it is, so I fractured my foot, right, a year and a half ago, I think is the timeline there. And you don't really know. I was making sure it wasn't a fracture, but pretty much confirmed it's not a fracture. It's just a muscular thing. So I should be healed up on the foot. It's still probably going to take another 2 weeks or so. And she's recommended, my physical therapist, that I don't run in Murph, that I do row or something else. And so I'm like, we'll think about it. You'll find out on Saturday if you follow me on Instagram what ended up happening. But I have to sit with that one for a little bit, see what I want to do. If I want to, because I'm trying to think long term here. I was making some really solid progress on Murph, and now I can run for the sake of saying I ran during Murph, and my foot will hurt the whole time, and I can quote unquote be a tough guy. Or I could skip 2 weeks of running and do rowing, probably be 100% better, and be able to run again and go really fast. And so I'm in the middle of that right now. Which one would you lean towards? Which one should I do, Joe? You tell me.
Logically, it makes sense to just row, even though rowing I feel like is worse than running a mile. But
my buddy told me, he's like I've done rowing Murph. I don't think I've ever actually done it. He said I've done rowing Murph a bunch. He's like, it actually is way worse. Not just because really fast pace on a rower sucks. Anyone who's done a 2K for time knows that. But he said your arms can be pretty blown out. And then you have to hop on the pull-up bar, which in running, there's absolutely no arm involvement at all, right? As far as the biceps are really concerned. And so that would be an interesting challenge. But to me, it's almost a different workout. But I might do a substitute just to get better. But like I said, everyone will find out officially on Saturday.
On my invested Murphs, on that last mile, my biceps, my arms are pretty smoked. So I'll run sometimes and I'll just let one arm dangle instead of keeping it up. So I look like an idiot, I'm sure, but still, it's just, yeah, everything's tight.
Yeah. Well, but other than that, I'm pretty happy because I just have a couple muscular things. My knee is actually fine. It's just some basic. It's all kind of related, right? Like in that, I'm sure you've learned that in your experience. So I think I'll be back to normal here in the next week or two. But there's nothing stopping me from starting this next week. So the day this is published on Monday, our new wave within the cycle. So the next 4-week wave starts today. There's nothing stopping me from continuing with my current training. So I'm just going to keep on with that. And that's about it. This, if you got in on the Fuels course, congratulations. We're doing our first live call this week. The Fuels course is probably the coolest, nutrition course on the internet. And this is my opinion though, but the fact that we combine energy systems with different, macronutrients and how you should use those to fuel your performance, both mental and physical. I haven't seen it anywhere else or anything like it anywhere. And so it's, we're doing like a hybrid course/coaching program. You can't sign up for it anymore if you're listening to this. Sorry, we've already opened and closed down. And we're doing our first live call this week. But if you're interested, just get on our email list. Somehow there are ways you have to find them. And, we will
first test.
Yeah. First, get on, actually, if you just go to GarageGymAthlete.com, I think there'll be like a pop-up or something. You can hop on there. We announcements coming out. And if you are one of our athletes already, you already got notified and you either joined or you didn't, but it's a really cool thing. All right. Are you ready to get into it?
Yeah. Let's get excited about sleep.
Sleep. I want to talk about sleep so badly, because it is so importante. So the title of the sleep study is called Sleep Interventions Designed to Improve Athletic Performance and Recovery, a systematic review of current approaches. This one was in 2018, so still relatively recent when we're talking about research. And again, if you've been listening to the podcast, this is a systematic review. So systematic reviews, what they do is they take a bunch, if you, like a list blog post, it's like a blog post where you can list a bunch of different resources for somebody in a blog post. That's what they're doing in the scientific world with these systematic reviews. And the reason I love them so much is because in this one specifically, we're only going to talk about a few different strategies. And I won't reference every study, but every study that was taken into consideration during this discussion and reviewed to draw some of these conclusions, it comes out to 18, not including the original study, so 19 total different studies that we will be talking about that involve sleep interventions, napping, all these different things on how it can increase your performance. And so that's why I think systematic reviews are really cool, because they're not studies in and of themselves. They're just a way to, combine a bunch of data and get a lot smarter really fast. So let's get into it. What we're going to be doing is covering, it comes out to being, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 main different, what should we call them?
Parameters?
Sleep strategies?
Structures?
Yeah. Like that come out to what we'll be talking about.
Tested methods?
Yeah, methods that elicited some sort of response, either positive or negative. And so that's kind of what this all gets broken down to. We're going to give you 4 total things that you can kind of walk out of. But before we get into that, and we are going to talk about sleep as our topic today too, but I want to know just from your personal experience, like, do you focus on sleep? Have you always been, I know that you sleep pretty well, but has that always been the case, or have you been intentional about making sleep a priority over the years?
I've always been, even back in high school, I went to bed at a decent time. I got a decent amount of sleep. So, when I was active duty, even in college, all that stuff, I was, no matter, I have priorities and stuff to do, but I never really try to deprive myself of sleep. I always shot for 8 hours.
Yeah, and that's good. I think, to be honest, I've been very similar. Because I got into fitness so early, early on into high school, that I had no intentions of, I was never a late night gamer or, things that I was just I've always been a fitness guy. And that doesn't mean I found sleep super important, but I would either be waking up to train or I'd actually be tired from the training. So I'd go to sleep relatively early. I never really stayed up late, and, but I never really prioritized it or been as crazy about it as I am now. Now it's like a ritual in my life, but, being
exhausted makes everything worse.
Yeah, it does. Like I mentioned that in the Better Humanology podcast. Like if you really want to get to know someone, like hang out with them after they're slightly sleep deprived. Because, you can't fully fault somebody, but to some degree you can. Like everyone's all like happy and chipper in the morning after some coffee and like a good night's sleep, but hang out with them for like 20 straight hours and you haven't slept yet and see if you still like them. If you do, that's probably a good sign. Maybe that could be like a test for your spouse. Like if you're thinking about getting married, be like, maybe go through like some sleep deprivation with them. Make sure that you're
probably not a good test. It's probably not going to go well. Take that advice very lightly.
Yeah, and if you're already married, then like whatever, just try and get as much sleep as possible. Like avoid that altogether. Okay, so let's get into it. They had some pretty loose inclusion exclusion criteria that basically people had to be 18. They had to be peer reviewed journals and available in English. They couldn't focus on any sort of people with problem sleep apnea. They couldn't be on medications. I'm just kind of letting you know what they ruled out, what they did allow. So it really had to be, an intervention aimed at improving both sleep and performance or recovery, sleepiness, or fatigue. So really geared more towards an athlete. So fitness in general, or just like combining sleep with something else. Like how well do you sleep and do X, Y, or Z? And so that's kind of what they were looking at. The first one that we'll talk about is sleep extension. So do you have a good grasp on what sleep extension is? The basics of it?
Just be in bed more.
Exactly. Like it's that simple. And it's almost like coaching trickery. If I wanted you to throw a ball, like say a wall ball up to the 9-foot line, like say there's a 9-foot line on the wall and you weren't doing it. And so I just coached you to shoot for the 12-foot line, and you shot for that and then you hit the 9-foot line. Well, you actually did what I wanted you to do. That I was only ever wanting you to get to that 9-foot line. And that's basically all sleep extension is it's saying, hey, go get in bed and lay there a little bit longer. Like try and lay there 9 hours. And so I'm almost lying. I'm like, hey, I need you to go get 9 hours of sleep tonight. And you're like, damn, 9 hours. Okay, I got to be in bed by 8:30 or something like that. But really all I ever wanted was like 8. But I know getting in bed a little bit earlier, staying in bed longer is going to increase the chances of you sleeping longer. So it's really simple. But that is an actual like scientific intervention. But what it did was so many different things. Let's see. One study on
the sprint was crazy to me.
Here, I'll let you read the sprint one. I'll read the tennis players. So one study looked at tennis players. The players were instructed to get at least 9 hours of sleep per day for 1 week. So there's like, hey, go get 9 hours of sleep. And they're like, all right, we're going to do it. And then the actual sleep time increased from 7.1 hours. So they were getting 7.1 already, which is pretty good for most people. And then it increased to 8.85. So that's a pretty significant increase. But the subjective ratings of sleepiness decreased and serving accuracy increased by 14.3% on average. Like that's a subjective and objective measure, an hour extra of sleep, a little more, and you're better. So hit us with the sprinting.
So that one they did was on basketball players, and they told them to go from 7 hours in bed to over 10 hours in bed for 5 to 7 weeks, and that resulted in 2 more hours of sleep. So they went from 6.6 hours of sleep to 8.4 hours of sleep. And from that, they did a sprint test in the beginning and the sprint test at the end. And whatever the time sprint that they did went from 16.2 seconds to 15.5 seconds. So almost a full second faster on a sprint is fairly significant. That's 15% increase or something?
Yeah, and on a sprint that short, like that's huge. That's like, because if you look at that and you're like, if you're like, oh, it's only a second, that's like saying, well, I went from 5 seconds on my 40 down to 4.2, and that's like, well, it's only 0.8 seconds. It's like that's pretty big deal, in a 40 time. So that's really significant, and just try and get more sleep, and you will get more sleep, and sleep will make you better. I mean, there's not a lot of like, the takeaway implementation for the garage gym athlete. Like, can you go to bed earlier? Is there something you're doing at night that you shouldn't be doing? Like, is it mindless TV for hours? before you're ready to go to bed. If that's the case, maybe a habit you want to start trying to part with. How would you get in bed way before you go to sleep?
Oh yeah.
Because you read, right? You read in bed.
Yeah. So we go to bed super early because Liz wakes up at 4:45 in the morning. But she passes out pretty quickly, and then I lay in bed and read for at least an hour at night. And then after I'm done with reading for an hour, I still have the TV on, which I know said something in here that you shouldn't have the TV on, but it's a habit that I've had for decades, so it doesn't really do much to me. And I always have the sleep timer.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that when we get into like our sleeping strategies, because some of these things I agree with and some of them I don't. Like some of them I think it's like, how scientific
subjective.
Is it? Yeah. So yeah, you get in bed well before, and I'm pretty similar. Like I get in bed. I go to bed at, I'm trying to be like lights out going to sleep at between 9 and 9:15. So I can get in bed probably around 8 o'clock sometimes just to read up on the latest biochemistry and, or, whatever.
Like textbook reading to make you fall right asleep.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one, was napping. And this one's pretty interesting because do you nap?
No.
I hate napping.
Even when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm not a nap fan. Not a nap fan.
I may as well be hungover when I wake up from a nap because I'm groggy, I'm grumpy. It's no good.
So I'll read the first study, and then you can read the second one. So it says one study found that 90-minute naps at 11:30 a.m. resulted in more slow wave sleep than napping at 10:30 a.m. The study also found that starting a nap 2 hours after training increased subjective preparedness to train in a later session compared to starting a nap 1 hour after training. So that's about all that study found.
Yeah, it was weird to me that they did naps at set times of the day because set times of the day are different for everybody. But
yeah, like based off of circadian rhythm, your schedule, like everything can be a little bit different.
Yeah,
right?
But like napping after training session kind of makes sense because I know like really serious athletes that train multiple times a day will do that. And I think they kind of highlighted it a little bit.
I did hear something. I'm assuming it was a nap. Now let's like move away from the science hat, right? Like this is not part of the systematic review, but there was a sleep researcher I heard give a TED talk, and he said that, I haven't checked this fact out, but he said Usain Bolt, when he ran the world record 100-meter time, had only been awake for 36 minutes. So like he was like sleeping hard and then woke up and just like warmed up a little bit, whatever, and then ran the fastest anyone's ever ran 100 meters in the world. And a lot of athletes like that. I mean, some of them are sleeping like 12 hours, 11 hours, like just insane amounts of sleep. Apparently Roger Federer, he does the same thing. He sleeps like 11 hours and, he's like one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world at tennis. And, sleep is obviously very important, but these napping situations, I just can't get on board with them. And I'll let you read the other study.
The other one just did another study about 20-minute naps after lunch would increase performance on a bike sprint test using simulated jet lag conditions. And did you see the note? Like I forgot where they did it somewhere.
Like, apparently, it's pretty painful to go,
he's
like
said
however you simulate jet lag.
Yeah, his little parentheses was you couldn't pay me to do that test, whatever it was. Yeah, I guess I don't know if they found that it helped a little bit, 20-minute nap after lunch.
It did not increase performance.
Yeah, okay.
And it increased the amount of time needed to fall asleep the next night.
Yeah, that's
just like a negative on post-lunch naps, in my opinion. It's like, didn't help you at all, and it took you longer to fall asleep. But it was in people who weren't nappers. Like, that's who they were testing. So maybe it skewed a little bit, but still, I'm gonna go ahead and say if you're not napping, I don't think, and this is definitely 100% personal bias, I don't think that you need to throw in naps. I hate naps. Joe hates naps, so we're kind of nap haters, I guess. But I don't think that it's something that you really need to worry about unless you're just like not getting enough sleep at night. So sleep extension.
The only time I've take a quote nap is if I do like a red eye flight, and those are just awful. So
Yeah.
that's a whole different story.
And most of the time, I don't even, like, I'll be in those situations and I'm so bad at napping, I just won't. Like, I'll just be like, well, I'm awake till tomorrow. This is going to be awful. You know? Okay, so next, sleep hygiene. So I guess I have to define sleep hygiene in general because each study did slightly different things for their sleep hygiene. But when you hear that term sleep hygiene, we'll probably talk about it in our discussion of sleep as well. It's really has to do with your habits surrounding your like pre-sleep routine
Leading up to.
Yeah, so light exposure, when the lights go out, how much are you using electronics, are you watching TV, like all these different things. That's kind of what people are talking about when they're talking about sleep hygiene. And then also the consistency of those things over the course of, your day-to-day habits. So that's what they mean by sleep hygiene. I didn't see a lot of like benefit to sleep hygiene. Like, did you catch anything in some, like there are a couple for 2 more studies, another study. I didn't see anything super positive except for the red light one, which we can cover, which is the last paragraph of that one. But
that was the effects of that was for adding recovery strategies to help your sleep, not the hygiene.
Okay, got it. Wait, yeah. So I didn't see a lot of benefit, like anything worth mentioning necessarily from sleep hygiene. And I don't want to read all the studies because they examine, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think maybe 5 total studies for sleep hygiene. But did you see anything like worth pointing out for?
There's a lot of it was just about light exposure, and obviously turn down the blue lights and other things like that toward the end of the night. And also there was another one that they did on, I guess, waking up after sleep to have the opposite and use light to wake you up to make you more alert, and maybe that helped performance. But I don't think there was anything that came out of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a bunch of okay, so going all the way back up to the start of the conversation, sleep extension, and we're like, hey, these athletes ran faster, these tennis players served better, like all these things. And the only thing I got, having read through all the studies of the sleep hygiene, so having a good routine before bed, was a lot of subjective measures saying, yeah, I feel a lot better after having done my sleep hygiene routine. But I don't care that much about subjective measures, because if you put me on some sort of sleep protocol, if you're like, hey, we're going to, paint your face red every night before bed because here's the science behind it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm on my sleep protocol of painting my face red. And every morning you're like, yeah, how do you feel? Do you feel better? I'm like, yes, I feel way better. So I wasn't a fan of any of those studies. I'm not going to say that sleep hygiene is not important, having some sort of habitual sleep practice. I'm not going to say it's not important, but I didn't see any strong links to like performance increases. So that's that on the science side of sleep hygiene. Okay, so this is the last one where I was talking about red light. The effects, and the last one before we kind of move on, but the effects of recovery strategies on sleep. So, did you catch anything here that you wanted to discuss or hit on?
So, it wasn't really it might be stated in the longer study, but on the cryotherapy, they said, I think it said that there's not, sleep quality didn't improve, but I would say that if you do cryotherapy pretty close to bed, I think it's going to help you fall asleep faster. I think I've read that other places where they try and get cold first, and then you go and then that's why you have the chili pad. It makes you cooler. So if you do the cryotherapy, it's going to lower your body temperature, which will help you to get to sleep faster. Yeah. It wasn't stated in the study. This is just me on my own and what I've heard from other readings, other places. But from the cryotherapy thing, it didn't elicit, I guess, better quality sleep.
Yeah, and so it wasn't super beneficial. Good to know. But also, we're not gonna, I try to keep this information super practical for garage gym athletes, right? Like, if you want to go buy a cryotherapy machine for your garage, I haven't seen a garage gym athlete do it yet. I'm sure somebody will. But I think they're like $10,000 or something, like it's base price, and that's like the cheap model, So they're insanely expensive. And then to do it, I don't know what maybe it's $50 every time you want to go do it. Like, it's just not a realistic strategy. Are you going to pay $50 every day to go somewhere to do a cryotherapy session where you can sleep a little bit better? Like that, I'll let anyone else do the math. That's, a lot of money. Was it $1,500 a month to sleep better? Like, I don't think anybody's going to do that. So cryotherapy, good to know it doesn't really work, and who's going to actually do that anyway? So who cares? And then the other one was red light therapy. So I have a Joovv, which is red light therapy. You could, they have a lot of these handheld ones now too. They're becoming way less expensive. So this one is still something you'd have to buy to be able to do, but way more affordable and doable depending on like what type you get. But let's see. Participants receiving red light therapy reported improvement in subjective sleep quality compared to placebo treatment. He said morning melatonin levels were also higher with red light therapy, however, potentially indicating a shift in circadian rhythm. And participants tended to increase their performance on a distance running test during their 2 weeks of red light therapy, while there was no performance changes with the placebo therapy. So that's the only little bit of performance where it states, hey, we did red light therapy. People said they slept better, but on top of that, they did their distance running test and they actually performed better over the placebo therapy. So that's good to know. A little bit, they didn't give any numbers on the specifics of how much they improved on their distance test or anything like that, but good to know. Good to know that that's a viable strategy, right? Have you ever done any red light therapy?
I have not. I've wanted to see if there's like recovery like centers and places that do them, but I just haven't found any.
A lot of tanning beds do it now, like tanning places or whatever. It's
for like saunas or something.
Yeah, so they're like, hey, I know that we're getting a bad rap for giving everybody skin cancer, but let's try to do red lights. It'll make you better. All right.
How often do you use yours?
I've gone in waves, but now I'm using it almost every day. In the morning.
Was that almost a pun because light travels in waves?
Yes. I went super deep on the wavelengths of light there. No, to be honest, so I used it for a long time after I got it. Then I stopped using it for a while, and then I just recently hooked everything back up in my office. And I've been using it every morning for about 10 minutes.
What really you should do is hang it like just under your desk and just have it shine on your foot.
There you go.
It'll be better in no time.
Dude, nice. If you go check out all the studies on red light, it's not just red light, it's red light and infrared light are the two lights that Joovv does specifically, but all the studies they have, you would think that it's almost too much. They're like, oh no, it does everything. It's like, you have cancer? Well, we can beat that. Like, and I'm not even kidding. Like, cancer is a thing listed on there, athletic recovery, skin looking better, like hair regrowth. Just like all these, like, it does everything. And I'm almost like, I forgot why I'm doing it. But it has said it helps with athletic recovery and sleep. And I, for the most part, other than my foot being jacked up right now, don't have any problem with the recovery or sleep. So, but I don't give that credit to the lights that shine on my skin. Yeah. A lot of other habits involved to achieve something like that. Now, let's get into just talking about sleep. I wanted to make this an entire sleep episode. I think that in the future, maybe we could dive into like one specific sleep study where we could talk a little bit more about hormone production and the different things that happen during sleep to just give people a better idea. But I really wanted this episode to focus more on just the importance of sleep and maybe our stance on it. Because I am not.
Allison back on.
Yeah, we can bring her back on. She, I talk to a lot of sleep people on the Better Humanology podcast, sleep experts, and they open my eyes to a lot of things. And it's just becoming more and more popular and well known. And I think that's really great because I work hard, like you work hard. We do these things, we get everything done, but never at the expense of our health. Especially this whole like grind, I'll sleep when I'm dead mentality, it's just dumb. Like, it's really dumb. And there's a lot of that in the military. You see that a lot in the military, sacrificing your sleep, stimulants all the time. And it's really stupidity. You're not tough for it. No one respects you more for it. It's dumb, and it's costing you more than you know. And I think that's why I think that I just want to, very clearly state that that's my stance. The official Into 3 Fitness Garage Gym athlete stance is get your freaking sleep. Not at the expense of anything. It's like, you need to figure it out. There's no way around. It's like, well, I have to go to bed at this time. If I want to train, I have to wake up early. Then you need to go to bed earlier. There's no way around it. You need to get your sleep. I'm not cutting anybody any slack on sleep anymore. I used to kind of like toe the line on that, be like, well, yeah, I understand you're super busy, and no, get your sleep. Something needs to go in your life if you're not sleeping. But you got something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think bang for buck, improving your sleep will be huge, because you don't need to go and get this cleanse or start this fad diet or do any of these things. Just go to bed 1 hour earlier and things will get better. It's free. It's easy. You don't need to watch that, rerun of a sitcom for the fourth or fifth time.
Right.
Just go lay in bed for a little while. You don't have to read. I love it that I read for an hour or so. But just get to bed earlier. You can even read. I guess watch a little bit of TV in bed instead of like in the couch or whatever area. But it's free.
Because I think,
and easy.
Honestly, if you give me a full night of perfect sleep, and you're like, well, you're only allowed to work for 4 to 5 hours tomorrow, that's all I need. Because I will be so like sharp and focused to be able to like just get it all done. I'll have no mental fatigue. I'll be really precise, make very few errors on like everything that we're doing, and that's fine. But if you give me 10 hours to work and I only slept 4 hours the night before, I'm going to like very slowly get through that work. The quality will be marginal at best, so like it really kind of is a superpower. You getting that sleep, it just makes you better at everything. And we've talked about like nutrition and training. So like to have a really good training session and really shitty nutrition is just a huge miss, right? Like why? Like I'm glad that you got the training in, but if you're jacking up your nutrition, you're seeing 10% of the results you possibly could. And then with sleep, it's even more. It's like, oh, really? You're gonna have an amazing training session. You're gonna dial in your nutrition. You're gonna sleep 3 hours tonight? No, like you just ruined everything. So it's really easy to get done.
Yeah, I think looking into some studies would be good to see how it also, because we on the very first one that we did for here, how it high intensity training affects your cortisol levels. But I wonder how sleep does as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be the next, not necessarily the next episode, but within the next couple weeks, we'll dive into a little. I'll find something real specific on sleep instead of a systematic review. Another thing I wanted to cover was sleep in kids first, and then we'll talk about sleep habits that you and I, how we do it, and if we have anything special, maybe it would be some takeaways for someone listening. But I understand. I have 3 kids, and been through the baby stage with each one of them. My youngest right now is 15 months old, sleeping through the night and everything at this point. But like I've been through all that. It's much harder for my wife than it is for me, but it doesn't mean my sleep is uninterrupted. And especially at the beginning, it's everyone. Later in the baby cycle, baby phase, it's just because Emily's getting up to feed, so I can't really help with that job. But at the beginning, you're up, your sleep is super disrupted, and everything sucks. And people always ask me about that stage, like, what do? You don't do anything. Like, there's nothing you can do. You just have to know that your body is incredibly resilient. You are not optimal right now. You are not currently optimal, period. But you need to just get through it. And when things get back to normal, just know everything else will get back to normal and you can focus on being optimal again. But these are the things I had to tell myself. There is no hack. There is no getting around it. Get as much sleep as you possibly can. If you do want to throw a nap in there, you can. I never really did those things. And I made a point when Eleanor was born. She was almost born on the first day of a new Garage Gym athlete cycle last year. And I think she was born on that weekend. And so then we rolled into Monday, and I did not miss a single training session in that entire time. Some nights I slept 3 hours, some nights I slept 8 hours, whatever. You just have to get through it. So that I don't have a lot of information or advice or hacks or tips for people if you have kids and they're ruining your sleep in the early stages of their life, the baby stages. Just suck it up. No, it's not ideal. You can't do anything about it. Get back to normal when you can. There's no hack. So that's it. Now, let's open it up for sleep routine. We already talked about yours a little bit, but do you take anything into account? You mentioned having a TV on, blue light. Like what things do you think about when you are winding down for the day, and what things do you think don't affect you as much?
I'm not really sure. I know I do the night shift mode on my phone. I've noticed that's a bit of a difference. It's less of a shock on the eyes, and I've even edited my TV settings in the bedroom to have I'll turn all the blue lights down and stuff to make it warmer.
Oh, so you got one of those. See, my TV doesn't do that. You have a TV that can actually go like orangish or whatever.
I had to manually do it, so you can still affect all the colors and the brightness and things. So I just manually.
Oh, I thought you meant you had one of the. They're like smart TVs now that are like your phone.
Yeah.
That like will change colors with the nighttime. No,
mine's just always like that. But that's the only time we're in the bedroom anyway. Is for sleep. So, yeah, I don't really. It's just so built into me that I know to go to bed early, and I know I'm going to lay in bed for a while. I'll take magnesium before bed and read.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it, though. It's not like super complicated. Do you control the temperature at all? Do you lower the thermostat at night or anything like that?
Yeah. If I lower it at any time, it's going to be toward the night. But I also sleep with a fan like right next to my bed, pointed on me, so I'm nice and cool. When it was in the past, when our AC was not working right or the house is hot, I'll actually jump in a cold shower because that really, like, right when you get out of the cold shower and I lay in bed, I felt myself more tired and more ready for bed because part of when you sleep is lowering your body temperature. Your body temperature does lower, so it's better to help it get there a little bit faster.
That's a dangerous game, man. A cold shower, like, depending on how cold, it could wake you up too. Like, it has that ability, has that effect on some people, not everybody. But yeah, I'm assuming it's not like ice water, so it's probably not a huge shock to the system. Just like a cool shower.
Yeah, just a little bit lower.
Yeah, I've completely abandoned cold showers because back in Texas and they don't exist in the summertime. I mean, I'll take it as cold as it can, but it's not a cold shower. Not after experiencing other places. Well, I actually take into a lot of different things, but I want to talk about, you mentioned you leave the TV on while you're reading, but you haven't seen that to have any effect on your sleep, right?
No, I think it's just because I've been doing it ever since high school. I've always had the TV on and then put a sleep timer on. Sometimes, because after I'm done reading, I'll kind of roll over and I'll watch whatever's on there for like 10 or 15 minutes. And then when I'm ready to actually go to sleep, I'll turn it off or I'll just fall asleep with it on and the sleep timer goes off. So it doesn't really bug me. Yeah,
and I see this is where I kind of push back on, I've talked to a lot of these sleep researchers, right? And they're like, get the TV out of the bedroom. Shouldn't be in there. Like, all this hardcore, but I'm very similar to you. Like, we'll have it on. And there's a certain level of, like what you mentioned, just like watching 10 to 15 minutes of TV before you fall asleep. It's probably not the best habit in the world, but if you have a brain that's constantly on, I really think that it helps your brain. Like when your brain is following a storyline, either in a book or on TV, it can really help you stop constantly running thoughts, which is me. Like that's what's happening to me all the time. So it really helps me shut down a little bit. So I know it's not the best habit in the world from what a lot of people have said, but at the same time, you and I have like awesome sleep and it doesn't seem to be affecting us that much. And that's one thing, like, so I try to limit blue light. I do the phone thing. If I'm never on my computer late anyway. Like I have that f.lux on my computer, but unless something has gone wrong, I don't get on my computer super late at night. That's just typically not going to happen. Most everything's on the phone anyway. And so I do have the orange light. I have some blue blocker glasses, lenses, like I'll wear at night, but I've done like completely like 100% subjective studies there. I've tried to look at Whoop data and stuff. I haven't noticed any difference in wearing the blue blockers and having better sleep or not wearing them and having worse sleep. Like I just haven't noticed any correlation to blocking blue light in sleep. I'm sure that if I were to get deeper with hormone levels, like a blood test, that might be different, but I haven't done that yet. That might be something I'm doing in the very near future. Check out some of that stuff, but I haven't noticed any significant thing. Things I have noticed, shower right before bed. The chili pad has been a game changer for me. We already mentioned that before, but lowering my body temperature has been awesome. But there's a new app. So I kind of, like I said, I've taken a break from the Whoop, and I've been trying out a new app on iPhone for last couple weeks. It's called the Sleepwatch app. Let me make sure I got that right. Sleepwatch. And this thing thinks apparently like I'm the best sleeper in the world. So they give you a score, and I score like, I guess it's out of 1,000, and I score 999 like every night. Every night I wake up. And I'm not trying to brag about it. I just don't know if it actually. I'm saying that because I don't know if it works that well. Because it'll give you your average sleeping heart rate variability, your average sleeping heart rate, your sleep rhythm, and your heart rate dip, and like all these different things. And it's pretty cool to track that stuff, but I don't know how well it's working. I'm always trying to track my sleep and check those things out, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else I do. I don't think so. I mean, another thing, what time do you stop eating? Like, when's your last meal typically?
7 or 7:30, so a good probably about an hour before we head to bed.
Yeah, and I'm normally right now I'm 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. is my cutoff time, and before
if I have anything, it's just some nuts or an RX bar, something small. That's not usually higher fatty, not carbs.
And we've talked about this in EO3 Elements. So controlling your body temperature, making sure your room is really dark, sleep extension, getting in bed a little bit more, and then avoiding some sort of like huge training session if you can. If you can. This is not like, I'm completely like, no, you need to get your sleep no matter what. But if you can only train in the evening for some reason and it's close-ish to bedtime, that's fine. Like I prefer you not to do it if we're talking about 100% optimal. But if you have to do it, if it's not train or train is the question, definitely train. That's going to be way better for you in the long run than not training to try and get sleep. But those are the only things. If you can avoid it, a high-intensity training session right before bed, do. And that's it. I mean, sleep is pretty simple, right? It's one of those super simple, not easy. And you just have to execute. Do a 7-day challenge if you're not a good sleeper right now. Try and get 8 hours of sleep or 8 to 9 hours in bed at least every night for 7 days and just see what changes, any subjective measures. That's what I love about self-experiments, because the only thing that matters is the subjective measure, how you feel and how things are going for you. Because you're not trying to publish a scientific peer-reviewed study. It's just, hey, if you feel great the next day, awesome. That's all that matters. Like, we don't need anything else to prove it, or an app or a heart rate monitor or heart rate variability to confirm it. If you feel great, do it. So take that subjective test over the next 7 days and be my challenge, everybody listening. And with that, man, let's quickly cover. This is a pretty easy one, but we can go over anything we got. This workout. So workout for the week doesn't even have a name. It's like, I should have named it something. But 60 minutes for max meters. Is this Meet Yourself Saturday? It's almost not like, there's nothing fancy about it. I think this is the lowest adherence rate we have on Meet Yourself Saturday for those who do Meet Yourself Saturday workouts. Almost everyone skips this. And not everyone skips it because running sucks. Some people skip it because there's nothing tricky about it. It's like, it's a 60-minute run, and I'm not saying, okay, well, every 60-minute run, every 60 seconds, do 20 back squats. That's more Meet Yourself Saturday fashion, right? Make something worse even worse. But this is just a 60-minute continuous paced run. But it absolutely, I think, is top ranking on the Meet Yourself side of Meet Yourself Saturdays. Like, you will meet yourself in a 60-minute run if you're not a runner. I guarantee it. So what are your thoughts on the workout? Do you have any tips, strategies, anything at all?
I mean, warm up your calves and your ankles and stuff like that, and just stay at a moderate pace at first, because it'll be really easy to fall off that ledge and have to start to. I mean, you might need to walk at some point, but yeah, trying to find that pace is pretty tough.
I'd say try and find a pace where you don't have to walk.
Yeah.
That would be
a slow pace to start off, 60% if anything.
Yeah, start slow and then get faster if you can. 60 minutes is a long time. If you're a decent, I say if you're a mediocre runner, you run like somewhere between a 4 and 5 hour marathon, maybe 5 to 6 if you're on the slower side. So like you're running a significant portion of a marathon right now, in 60 minutes, and I think what Joe said is a huge, huge thing. Like most people wouldn't think of a warm up for a 60-minute run being that important. Like, yeah,
I'll warm up in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna be running anyway. But actually targeting really anything from the waist down, muscle wise. Like if you could, activate and not just stretch them, like activate, get them engaged. Your glutes and your hamstrings would be really good. And then like he said, like your calves and Achilles are probably going to be sore no matter who you are the next day if you don't regularly do 60-minute runs. And that's most every Garage Gym athlete listening to this. So yeah, warm up, take that seriously, spend at least 10 to 15 minutes warming up. I know that adds to the overall time, but you'll feel a lot better the next day, and you'll even feel a lot better in the run. If you want to meet yourself, find a pace that you will not have to walk at. And just note, I like to note, I call them mental benchmarks. Note where in the 60-minute run, like have a running clock, and just look at your watch when your brain is like, I really don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. I would like to quit right now. Note that. That's a mental benchmark. Very different than a weight on the bar or anything else, but I think they're just as important, having these mental benchmarks in workouts like this. So if that's in minute 2, okay, next time you do this, is it minute 7? And then for some people, it might be like, I felt awesome until minute 47. And then the last, 13 minutes, I hated every bit of it. And so just keep that stuff in mind. Keep your mental benchmark would be another thing I push people towards. Warm up, keep a pace, don't walk. And that's about all I have, man. You good on that one?
Yeah.
Oh, just in the Meet Yourself Saturday world. So that's the last one. We've done that one before. The next 3 Meet Yourself Saturdays are going to be brand new, never before seen workouts. Ashley was just recently in town at my house. She helped test one of them.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So it's, and it was bad. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it has the potential. We did it and I was like, it needs to be longer. This needs to be harder. And so it will be bad.
So did she have to give you no, this is too much?
No, I think you need to be involved in the conversation before it gets finalized, because she was just good with everything. She's like,
See,
I was like, I'm thinking about making it longer for the Meet Yourself Saturday and doing this. And she's like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And I was like, but it was already like pretty crappy for both of us.
Well, okay, I'll come in and save the day for everyone.
Yeah, so we'll let you know what we end up with, but I want to definitely do some more Meet Yourself Saturday workouts. I'm in a great position to do that right now with my schedule and everything. So we're gonna publish some more Meet Yourself Saturdays. Be looking on the lookout for those. Those will be fun. And I may have just given you a great answer to the question, why should someone join Garage Gym Athlete Training right now?
I'll totally take that easy way out. Yeah, because there's
3 new Meet Yourself
coming.
Yeah, and we mentioned at the very beginning, this is the very start of the new wave for all tracks. All tracks follow the same timeline, at least. So get on and get training. 2-week free trial. Get it done. All right, sleep. It's important. Go do it. That's all I have for this week. Peace out. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.